Our opening song today is number 348, Guide My Feet, in the Gray Hymnal. Please rise as you are willing and able. We bid you welcome. We do not ask what you believe or expect you to think a certain way, but only that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. You've been baited and switched. I am not Linda Brown. My name is Marie Laurie. I use the pronouns she and her, and I am the service leader today. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us, whether enjoying the service in person or watching online. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we invite you to stay for coffee and conversation downstairs in our reception hall. Joys and sorrows will be shared a little later in the service. You can come to the microphone or text your name and your joy or sorrow to the phone number listed on page 2 of the order of service. Please take a moment now to silence your phones, but we encourage you to share your presence with us on social media. Do we have any announcements?
Tom, you want me to do it? Yeah, you can do it first. Okay, all right. I'm Tom. No, I'm not Tom. I'm speaking on behalf of Tom and membership. So a group of you are coming to see our show Friday night. Some of you wonderful people have already come. So you can talk to them about how wonderful it is. It is really a lovely night. You will get to see me and Corey, who is sick today, so that's sad. We missed our show last night, but she will be better, and so you get to see me and Corey and the wonderful works of Terry, and we forgot to mention Ted Goldberg is in it as well. So the show is called Little Love Stories, and a group is coming together on Friday night. Some are coming Saturday night, but I think the big group is coming Friday night. And again, it's a collection of 10-minute plays, all about love and loss and loving oneself, romantic love, parental love, all the loves that you can imagine. Oh, it's at the Livonia Community Theater at 7:30. Anything else? And tickets are available. You can buy tickets at the door, or you can go to the website. Do you know
I think it's on the
Great, it's on the thing.
Anyways, it'll be a lot of fun. We did this last year, different play. We had about, I think, 15 or so of us there. We had a really nice night, and we will this Friday, too. The other thing, UU and U, which is our fairly quick educational session for new members, people who might think they want to become members, people who really are not interested in becoming members but want to find out more about UUC. It's UU. It's a great program. Two parts, each one lasts hour and a quarter, something that's where George Rourke's going to be heading it up. This first one is about the big world of UU. The next week is the more direct world of UUCF. We'll be meeting in the back here, probably about 11:45. Grab a cup of coffee, come up, join us, and we will try to provide childcare. The person who's going to do it is Corey, who's sick. But we should be able to find somebody who can take care of childcare. Just talk to us if that's needed. Bye.
Good morning. My name's Yvonne. I'm with Social Justice. And I had two announcements. The first thing is to let you know that the Crop Hunger Walk is coming up on May 5th. And so what the Crop Hunger Walk is about is 75% of the funds raised goes to Church World Service. It does good works around the world. 25% goes to 5 local food banks. And so I just want to let you know you're welcome to join us, and you can see me in coffee hour or after the service. And also, or you can give a donation to one of the walkers. So anyone that's planning to walk or is already signed up to walk, if you want to stand up right now, so they can let you know who you are. So you can donate to any of these folks. So thank you very much. And
Yeah, it's a baseball game, so we're walking around the baseball field at the same time, and we'll wear our shirts.
okay, cool. That's a great idea. So anyways, thank you for that. And then the other thing is I still have letters downstairs. I'm going to Washington, D.C., beginning of March to lobby for robust funding for international assistance. And you're welcome to sign letters, and I'll take you with me in my suitcase, and I'll deliver your letters to your rep and your senators. So thank you very much.
And I am going to start doing a periodic thanking people moment here in our service. So I wanted to lift up a new initiative we've begun with our service leaders, is that we met yesterday and did a afternoon training. So I want to especially make sure that you all know who some of these are. This is not representative of all of the service leaders, but a big thank you to these people who took their time on a Saturday afternoon. Helen Smith and Daryl Smith, Mark Petrie, Linda Brown, Marie Lowry, Jesse Sanchez, Ellen Grenia, Bev Church, and Barb Eglinton. So a big thank you to all of these people.
Quick announcement. The little Valentine things we put on the trees and you wrote to people are downstairs on the social justice bulletin board. I'm changing the tree decor.
Now you all know I've been trained and there's no excuse if I mess up today. Please check the UUCF website or emails for other announcements about upcoming events.
Welcome to this place where equity and justice transcend mere dreams, where the air they are, the air we breathe. Enter the sanctuary, all who yearn for respite from a world rife with scarcity and inequity, rife with the relentless shackles of privilege and bias. Come, embrace this space. Be embraced by this place. This refuge where scarcity and disparity dissolve into we, together crafting a place where the breath of life is equity and justice, cherished, manifested, sustained.
And my name is Reverend Karen Madrone, and I have the privilege of serving this congregation and being part of this community. Before we get to our shared affirmation of mission, I would like to present to you these certificates from the UUA. These acknowledge the work that this congregation did last year to continue its work of being a welcoming congregation. This program started in the 90s. Most congregations around the country did that work. And we know that things change and we continue to learn and grow. So these certificates recognize the Unitarian Universalist community welcomes and celebrates the presence and participation of people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. And so this is an overall certificate that recognizes the work, and then this is specifically for 2023. This certifies that the Unitarian Universalist Church of Farmington, they got that wrong, didn't they? I'm going to have to ask them to redo it because they put Unitarian first. So it should say the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington has successfully completed the 5 practices of welcome renewal for 2023. And it's signed by Reverend Michael J. Crumpler with the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs of the Unitarian Universalist Association. So a big hand to all of those people who worked to make this happen last year, especially Barb and the Program Council for all of the work that they did all year. So let's give them a big hand. And so this is now going to be displayed on the wall when you come into the sanctuary as a reminder of the work that we do here and the work that is ongoing. Thank you. So now let us join together in saying our affirmation of mission on the second page of your order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, and live with compassion. Because Corey is sick today, Kelly is going to give our message for all ages.
Hello, can I have my young friends come on up? Oh my gosh, we don't have many young friends.
I only have like 1, 2, that's not 4,
6.
Cool. I think we don't need to have a teen class. We have a small group today, but you know what? We're mighty.
My sister isn't coming up.
Okay, well, that's all right. That's all right. That's okay. Thank you for being here. So my name is Kelly Petrie. My pronouns are she, her. I am, as Reverend Karen said, I am not Corey Cortez, but we share a lot of the same genes, so I'm filling in. So this year, we've been focusing on a lot of the wonderful values that the UUs share, and they are gifts to us, things that we can then share with the world. So our Wonder Box has been transformed this year. Instead of a Wonder Box, it is a gift box, and this month our gifts are about equity and justice. Would somebody like to open the gift box? Yes, my dear. Tell us what you see.
It's a phone.
It's a phone. Oh my goodness. Thank you. It's my phone.
Wait, you put your phone
It
in the phone
is. And we got it planned. We got it. Okay. So, and it has, what does it have on it?
Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps. I'll just cast it up here so everyone can see. Wow, yeah. How do we do that? Is such a good question. Oh my gosh, thank you for asking that, because that is what I was going to ask you. We have Google Maps, right? And what do Google Maps help? Not Google specifically, all the maps, all the map apps. What do they help us do? Yeah.
Figure out what places are and stuff, and also like how to ride to stuff, and also like geography. I think.
What does it stand for? Yeah.
Geography.
Global. Does anybody know what it stands for? GPS. Global.
Positioning.
Yeah, global positioning system. Awesome. Very, very good. I'm going to set this box down for a moment, if that is quite all right. Is that all right to put it there? Ooh, bounce. Sorry. Thank you. All right. So GPS. How many people use GPS? I really should say how many people don't use GPS. Anybody don't use GPS? There we go. One person. All right. So yeah, GPS is so useful for so many things. You can find out, where to go, all your favorite places, not only just by car, but even if you want to take buses or public transportation. That's what I said, buses. By bike, by foot, and we use it in our house often to find out where our phones are. Or where our child is. He doesn't have a chip. It's just his.
How would that help you find where your child is?
If he has his watch on, if he has his Apple Watch on, then we can find him. That son, yeah, yes, yeah. But there's so many other uses. Any other uses that you're like, oh, I use it for? Oh, no. Any other uses? Yes. Yeah. We know how to get to the church in many ways, but when we know that there might be a problem, like there's construction, we put that up there and we go, oh, well, there's construction here, construction there, right? So all these wonderful things, we have someone very special to thank. So GPS was developed by a team led by Dr. Gladys Mae West, an African-American mathematician, and she was a woman. I know she was African American and a woman, and we are so grateful to have her, to have had her to help us, right? So West soon started to get recognized as one of the hidden figures. If you've seen that movie or read that book, for Hidden Figures. It talks about all the wonderful African-American women who were mathematicians and scientists in the 1940s and 50s. For her contribution to the development of GPS she was recognized in 2018. So West was included in the U.S. Air Force Hall of Fame. Her work has been written into history. So let's watch a quick video about her.
When I grew up as a little girl, I was in a country area, rural area, and we made our living by having a farm. I told myself that I did not like being out in the sun and working from sunrise to sunset and all that, so I made good grades in all of my subjects. So it's time to go to college. Well, since you're doing well in all subjects, you can major in math, and we know that you'll be successful. So when I went to college, I majored in math. Graduated after 4 years. I had applied for jobs in the government. I got hired in Darwin in 1956. I came by myself. My husband wasn't with me or anything. I was by myself. I would at least put it this way, I didn't know him at that time. At the same time that we were coming to work here, they were also bringing in a large computer. And they hired these mathematicians to learn to work this computer. We hadn't had any computer teaching or knowledge, so we had to master this job that they want us to do. So we had to learn how to program and code for this big computer. My part in the global positioning system would be working more with the orbit over the water. A lot goes into the scientific computation to generate an orbit, which is a database used in GPS. So the different people who did civilian applications learned to use the database that we generated, and that was the foundation that GPS was built on. When you grew up as a little black girl, our school was separated from the white schools. And we had separate buses. And many times we would get the old hand-me-down things from the white school, books that weren't new like their books were. But all of that helped to make us, I think, work harder because, you were behind the 8 ball to start with, so you had to work harder. But I always was motivated by doing something new and completing something, having a goal. Because usually I had a mind of my own. I tend to think for myself, a little impatient with others who don't think the way I do.
Wonderful. So I think in that video there, they showed the picture of her getting her recognition in 2018. So the theme of this month, again, is justice and equity, and it is time that we expand the history that we tell by telling the stories of those who were left out. Too often in this country, the stories of African Americans have been excluded. We lift them up during Black History Month in hopes that it becomes a year-round and all-the-time experience. So we now will sing the children out, right? Yes. So if you have your ribbons, wait till the Rainbow Bridge is up. And I want to walk down the Rainbow Bridge too.
Part of being a community is learning to share the authentic and vulnerable parts of ourselves with others, to see and be seen, to know and be known. We make space today for that sharing, all of which helps to build this congregation into beloved community. We invite you to share what's going on in your life, to name your feelings and the people on your heart in need of prayer, good energy, best wishes, and other help. We invite you to get into your body and investigate what emotions you're experiencing, to share them as you feel called, so we can help one another hold our joys, our grief, and our in-between feelings. We build community by celebrating our good things, mourning our troubles, taking risks, and listening deeply. You're welcome to come up, pick up a stone or stones from the table, infuse or charge it with your joy or sorrow, and place it in the singing bowl, where its energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. If you'd like to share something important in your heart, please come up and speak directly into this microphone. If you've submitted a joy or sorrow via text, it will be read aloud by me. All are welcome to participate in any of these ways. Does anybody have a joy? sorrows, and one for the strength of the gathered community that can support you and bring you peace.
Let us take all these, both sorrows and joys, deep into our hearts. What we've heard from our community, both spoken out loud, sometimes in a conversation, sometimes in an email. We know everybody as part of this community, whether here present or not able to be here today, everybody is carrying something. Let's hold that in our hearts today as we take a moment of silence together. Notice where you might be holding tension. Feel the stress, hopefully breathing and letting some of that go out of your shoulders. Maybe your stomach is tight. Whatever stress or worries you brought in here today, to know that you are held in loving and beloved community here together. Today I want to share with you a prayer by Dr. Rebecca Savage. She writes, "Spirit of life, eternal mystery that holds us close. Receive the meditations of our hearts this day. We come together in this quiet moment to unify our hearts again towards the clarion call of our time. May justice and equity guide us to greater connection, a greater truth. Our part is just as great, to approach dismantling systems of oppression within us in order for us all to be free. To know that when I cherish and tend to the divine spark within me, when I know that in my bones that I am worthy of love and whole just as I am, that there is greater potential for mutual understanding and care. Love is not scarce. Our ability to extend compassion and grace, however, can be. I place my hand over my heart and know I can feel the spirit of life within me. I invite you to place your hand over your heart and feel the spirit of life within you. The spirit of life is divine with us. The spirit of life is here within each of you and beyond. This is the beginning of justice and equity when we go within in order to be of service in our communities and our world. May it be so. Amen. Please remain seated while we sing the hymn number 168, One More Step, in your gray hymnal.
Everyone will take one more
the chalice is always lit in our hearts.
I was so inspired by the words I'm going to read that I tried to do them earlier in the service, but this is from Adrienne Myrie Brown. Small resistance historically has looked like a wrench in the gears of slowing things down. A rancid ingredient in the master's food, enslaved people teaching each other to read and write, letting a fugitive sleep in your basement, learning how to give each other reproductive care, slipping each other cannabis for medicine. Small resistance these days looks like turning people who are supporting and promoting racist, transphobic, and inhumane policies away from your door. It looks like stopping next to police cars that have pulled over people and watching or filming them until the person stopped is allowed to leave. It looks like naming isms and phobias in real time and learning together. It looks like the local direct actions at the homes of Congress people who make decisions that harm humans or the planet. Everything is connected. The soil needs rain, organic matter, air, worms, and life in order to do what it needs to do to give and receive life. Each element is an essential component. Organizing takes humility and selflessness and patience and rhythm while our ultimate goal of liberation will take many expert components. Nature teaches us that our work has to be nuanced and steadfast, and more than anything, that we need each other at our highest natural glory in order to be free.
Today's service is an example of all the ways that we work together and include each other. You'll notice we have worked to be as collaborative as possible in this space, because this is one of the things we do, is include as many voices as possible wherever we can. Small things really do change everything, and everything truly is connected. This is absolutely one of our core beliefs across time, that we know that each impact, each thing we do has impact on others, and a lot of times we don't see that impact. I think of it just chokes me up, the flowers that I see growing in the tree out front. I'm sure Barb knows that I see them coming up now. We are enjoying those flowers because other people planted them. How do we hold that space for all the work that has come before? And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about just a tiny touch on some of our Universalist history. And I've said before, and I will continue saying, that I love that this congregation has Universalist as its first word, because universalism, to me, is the core thing that keeps me driving, keeps me focused on, this is what we are here for. If we ever forget, just go back to the first word, Universalist. We are Universalists at our very core. These people said, this is who we are. So I want to think about what is it we actually try to do here in this congregation on these Sunday mornings? Like, what is this for? And this is one of the conversations that we had yesterday at our Sunday service leader training. Have you ever thought about this absolutely impossible task of a group of people who choose to be together and somehow work to create ongoing community? Like, that is just absolutely mind-blowing when you consider the details of it. So I kind of boiled it down to 3 bullets. That we provide a religious community that doesn't condemn people to hell. Believe it or not, that is a big part of what we do. That loves and supports people just as they are. When people walk in here, we don't say, we love you, except this. We love you, but you need to change this thing. We don't do that. We ask you to stay in covenant and loving relationship, but we don't say this core part of who you are is wrong. We practice being together across our many, many, many differences. We may appear very homogenous, and yet we are very different people. And the third bullet point, which we really strive to do, but we miss the mark most of the time, is we take our beliefs out into the world and make life better for others. That is one of our, if we can do those first two things, then we can build and empower ourselves to work for others. All of these are a really tall order just in and of themselves. It's ironic that universalism, the belief that we are all saved, that is the very, very, very beginnings of it. And if you do even just a short Google search, you will find that our universalist ancestors based that belief on scripture in the Christian Testament or the New Testament. And so it's really fascinating because today we don't even talk about the Bible much, but that is where they began. They believed that the scripture itself said we are all saved. That is where they began, and they also believed that God would not send people to hell, that a God that they believed in, who was all loving, would not condemn people to hell. They just could not believe that. And so they were the anti-fire and brimstone people. And so at the time, there were the circuit riders going around telling people how much they were going to hell. But then, oh shoot, I meant to bring up, Brian Golden gave me this wonderful book that's this Farmington area history. And so actually quite a bit of this comes from this book that he gave me. But it talks a little bit about how even in this area that there was a circuit rider who, like, they took records of him, who was the anti of the fire and brimstone. Like, in 1 year, he, like, traveled around on his horse giving these everybody is loved sermons. Can you imagine? Everybody's loved. Like, this is what he traveled around telling everybody, like, just in case you've forgotten, God really does love you. And we are not people who are going to condemn. Like, so it's really very, very inspiring to imagine believing in this so much that you are willing to get on a horse and, go to all the communities and tell them this amazing story of universalism, that God really does love you. Most of us here now don't actually believe in a God, or we may have different relationships to what that word means. So now the word universalism is now practiced with the belief of love for all people. If you ask most people now in the UU world, they really wouldn't tie it back to the scriptures, or they wouldn't even know that there were people literally around the world who were considering this and basing their thoughts in scripture. Most of us now don't go back to scripture. What we go back to is, of course, we love all people, and we are going to remove these barriers that hinder that. So we take that in a totally different way. And it makes me think of how everything is connected and everything changes over time, even our relationship to a word. And like, if you do different etymologies about some words, that the relationship changes and the understanding changes, but we continue to grow with that change. So the DNA of universalism shows up in how we interact with each other and how we truly believe that everyone is welcome here. And that helps us. If we can practice everyone is welcome here, what that does is help us to be the type of people who are welcoming to people elsewhere. That helps us be better people when we're interacting with folks at the grocery store, for example. Like, this person too, even though they just cut me off in line, still has worth and value. So we can be practicing that. But when I stand in this room, so I learned that I've heard George speak several times about the history of the building and our history, and of course with Brian's book, that there are different aspects that we started with, and it has changed and grown over time. But when I think of the people that actually started, this is a historic sanctuary that started as a Universalist congregation. And so it's hard not to imagine the people who actually worked to build this space of working for a community that they could not have imagined in the future. They could not have imagined that one day this congregation would be working towards GLBT recognition and acceptance. It doesn't mean that they were bad people. They just didn't know that in the future this is what we would be doing, but they planted the seeds for us to be able to do that. So the person who gets the most credit for actually starting this congregation, his name was Sergius P. Lyon. He originally named it Union Church because universalism was an epithet of contempt by mainline Christians, and still is, depending on who you talk to. And just doing random Google searches, you can find people who are like, "What? These are the things that is wrong with universalism," because they want people to know that God condemns them. We are the opposite of that. So if sometimes there can be this understanding in the world of what universalism is. So if people ask you, you can say, "This is what we believe," so that people can understand that a little bit better. But he had that fear. I wonder if you ever been in a situation where like you're coming out to somebody about any kind of thing, and sometimes like this is who I really am, but let's start here. And so let's start with Union Church, because that didn't have quite the connotations of it at that time. Now he called it Union Church because of this book that was written by James Relly in London in the 1700s. So I look back at we go way, way back, far, far farther than people really realize. There was a man, James Relly. He wrote a book, and he did sermons on accepting and loving people. And so the Methodists and other people around them were like, "No, that is totally wrong." And so, but James Relly, he was the first one who actually wrote this book, and then people came to these sermons, and they were called Rellyites. And because they were following James Relly. It's interesting how things continue to change over time. So he was like the first person to kind of put it into print. And then following, there was John Murray, who actually went and listened to him, and he argued with him, and he was a Methodist lay minister, and he was like totally against it. And then over time, he changed his mind about, maybe there is something to this. And one of our early miracle stories, believe it or not, a faith community who does not believe in miracles, here's one of our miracle stories, is that John Murray, his wife and his child died, and he was going through so many crises in London, and so he decided to leave. And he came to the United States. He was on a ship, and his ship got stranded off the coast of New Jersey. Now, that may sound pretty crazy, but there was a man there who, last name Potter, that he had built. He believed in universalism, and he created this chapel, and he dreamed, it was like this, if you dream it, they will come. He dreamed that there would be a universalist minister who would show up. And so eventually, John Murray shows up on this boat that is stranded on the coast. And John Murray comes to dinner with Potter, and Potter says, "I have this chapel, I want you to speak." And John Murray is like, "I said I would never preach again." So they made this deal. "If you're still stuck here tomorrow, I want you to come preach." And he was still stuck, and he did. And so that is the first story of universalism being preached here in the United States. And John Murray went on to found the Universalist Church of America. And so eventually, Sergius P. Lyon, being influenced by all of this, by all that book, by all the stories, he eventually founded the Union Church here in Farmington, downtown. And so we started with that. And so it was, we don't have exact dates. It was like the mid-1800s. But sometimes history is like that. We don't always know exactly, right? So the Union Church welcomed all comers, for the Universalists professed no creed. And the people met in this room professed, quote, "a belief in the broad principles set forth by Jesus." These principles were freedom, truth, fellowship, and love. They believed that life on earth is a program of progress rather than a penitential pilgrimage through a vale of tears. That all men, and of course they only use the word men, rather than a select few, are destined to take their places in the kingdom of God. Note that at this time, the focus was on Jesus and God, even though also in their language was, this is a home for all. So they kind of lived in this both space. But can you imagine the courage it took for these people to do that? And then eventually they went from the Union Church to the Universalist Church in 1866 when they finally said, okay, this is who we are. And we're going to live this and be this out loud, even though we may be ridiculed, we may be made fun of for believing in this thing of universalism. We're still going to do it. I always think of the courage of those people and the courage it must have taken then and the courage it takes now to continue to live this faith of saying, we really do believe that all people are loved, and this is what we are going to do to continue doing that. It takes a lot of focus to do that. And so eventually, over time, as you all know, we don't hold on to some of these original beliefs. And then eventually I have the first record because I wanted to think on how we went from that to thinking about ourselves as a beloved community. There are many, many parts of history being left out about the covenant building and so on. But then when we actually come to my first reference I could find for Unitarian Universalists using the words beloved community was in 2008 that was presented by the UUA Leadership Council. And so this is what they wrote. With humility and courage born of our history, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all souls are welcomed as blessings, and the human family lives whole and reconciled. Now, the writers of this book, Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism, they really appreciated this statement because it does acknowledge that being in community requires reconciliation. We're going to make mistakes. It requires being humble. It requires making space for each other. And this is where we continuously want to go, always on the road. Universalism is the bedrock, the beginning of our faith. But I believe that the ongoing work of building the beloved community is its current form. It is who we are and where we want to do. And so my belief in this beloved community, my belief in all of you, where you are and where you are going, is one of the reasons why I changed the joys and sorrows, not only to a physical form, but to actually moving it to earlier in the service. And it's something we're going to continue to do and see how that works out. And part of it is because building a beloved community means being able to have trust in each other. We have trust. We respect each other. We are vulnerable together. We share from our hearts. We share sometimes things that are said out loud or not said out loud, but we support the whole. And we know that here together, it's not about us as individuals, but how are we together as a whole, creating the world we want to see. And so thank you for being willing to take this risk together and moving on to creating the world that we wish to see based on the Universalists who work so hard for where we stand now. And now I would like to call, sorry, Gloria to read a reading from Clarissa Pincola Estes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stay down here. Whatever. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It's not given to us to know which act or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. And never mind. What is needed for dramatic change is the accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale. And with that, I'm just adding this on because I saw a movie that this fits. The Greatest Night in Pop. It's on Netflix. It's terrific.
Thank you. A short story from Louisa Rinza. A young person enters a store and asks the clerk, "What do you sell here?" And the clerk says, "Whatever you want." And the young person says, "Well, then I would like an end to all wars, and I would like that no child ever goes hungry again, and I would like people to stop fighting with each other and start talking to each other." And the clerk stops him and says, "But we don't sell the fruit, we only sell the seeds." When I think of gardening, I think of that first ripe, juicy tomato that you eat right off the vine, warm in the garden. And when I think of the Universalist idea of heaven, I think of beloved community. I think of heaven here on earth, a world where we all share fairly in the wealth of the earth. I think of everyone cherished and appreciated, free to be and express exactly who they are and to love exactly who they want to love, and work together to solve disputes with love and trust. Those are the crops I believe we desire. Reverend Karen talked about the seeds planted by our forebears becoming the fruit we are reaping today. But that doesn't just happen. Anybody who's gardened knows gardening is really hard work. You can't just think good gardening thoughts in your house or pray for a great crop. And it's equally ridiculous to assume that the arc of the universe will somehow magically bend toward justice. Being a nice person won't bring it about. Wishing people well won't bring it about. Thoughts and prayers won't. Waiting for someone to ask for help or tell you what to do won't help either. Without actions, all of our beliefs and good wishes are, pardon the pun, fruitless. Building beloved community is also hard work. 7 years ago last month, I'm going to quote myself, I stood up here and said, "We have elected officials who embolden racial bigotry, degrade women, threaten immigrants, and scorn the poor. We're looking at losses in the areas of freedom of speech and the press, reproductive rights, affordable health care, security for immigrants, real religious freedom, racial and LGBTQ+ civil rights, environmental protection, scientific research and education, international cooperation and stability," that one hits hard right now, any limitation on who may own firearms, restraint on the upper class wealth accumulation that's killing our middle class and expanding poverty, and limits on corporate influence over our laws. So I'm just going to drop the mic. We're living in some rough times, and we're all scared and confused and feeling helpless and defeated often, and we're tired. But these aren't the first rough times, and they won't be the last rough times. They're just the ones that we're in. And unlike that tomato, there will never be a complete triumph of justice over injustice, or equity over inequity, or even love over hate, or its more polite cousin, indifference. There can only be working to make it so, and in the process, creating the best world we can. So gardening is hard work. You research and you till and you plant, and then you water and you weed and you weed and you weed and you weed, and then finally you look at your garden and there the cabbage moths are there, right? It's on and on. And so is the work of working toward beloved community. But gardening is its own reward. Anybody who's ever gardened knows what joy there is, even in that hard work, right? You stand up and your back hurts a little bit, but you're looking at a good row, right? You're looking forward to those tomatoes. There is joy in the work, and there is also joy in the work of working toward beloved community. The even better part is you have to wait for the tomato, but actually working for beloved community is beloved community itself. The work is the product, so there is joy in that. As long as we keep working, injustice and apathy and hatred can't win. A few years ago, my daughters invited me to join them at a Black Lives Matter march. And as we walked with the crowd, we were holding our signs and yelling our responses to the calls of the march leaders. Adele, my other daughter, Clara's here today, Adele turned to me and said, "This feels like church." And it did. Because that day, that moment, we were in beloved community, right? We were many, we were one, and we were showing the world and each other and ourselves that we are a loving people, that we are here. And protests and marches are just one very visible form of action. There's a lot of ways to work toward beloved community. And you will be shocked to hear I have some ideas for you. So the first and foundational area of change is personal. It's that personal growth, that evolution of ideas, right, of beliefs, as Reverend Karen talked about. As any gardener can tell you, any plant that is not growing is dying. That's true of plants, it's true of communities and churches, and it's true of people. Growth is not always easy, but it's always necessary. So I would ask you to examine your own strengths, your challenges, and your implicit biases. Google, why is that sports team's name so offensive, so harmful? Your best friend is Google. How can I help group X? If you have to ask, how can I help you? You haven't done your homework. Go find out from someone who's already done the work, and then start doing the work and let that person tell you, maybe try this other way, right? When you find something that makes you uncomfortable, that's a really good sign, because that means that's something you need to think about. Sit with your discomfort. Live with your discomfort. Why does this bother me? Follow independent news sources. Read Heather Cox Richardson or Joyce Vance. I'm always talking about them, and I'm happy to share those resources. Read people who are not in the main news, who are able to explain clearly their viewpoint. Obviously, everybody has a bias of what's going on. Read different viewpoints. And then, please, tonight at 7 o'clock, if you can, join Save the World in Adams Hall to watch Four Little Girls. Again, this is a movie about the bombing of the Birmingham church and that killed 4 young women and 4 girls in the early 60s. It's also about who we are, how we got here. So push yourself to learn those things. Group action is the next step, and that's relationship building. It's always easier to do something for someone, but it's better to do something with someone. Again, start doing the work. Let someone nudge you toward a better way. I'm going to ask you to do something for today, but the fact that we do Caring Sundays as a group, as that we send things as UUCF, makes a difference. We are doing it with each other, but we're also sending a sign that we as a group are here for the people we support. We always support La Casa Guadalupana, for which they are very grateful. It's most of the people who receive our support are Catholic. The people who run the organization are mostly Catholic. Last year, they did a fundraiser. We do a fundraiser every spring, and one of the other board members opened the program and said, "Oh, who got the UUs?" I was like, "I know a couple." So it makes a difference that we can say as a community that we support you. So today, there is an envelope in your order of service. Please give generously if you can to Zaman International. Zaman International works with families, mostly women and children, for job development. They have a food program. They offer culturally appropriate and halal food, which is difficult to get in other food programs. They also help kids who have lost parents. They actually have an infant burial fund for people who need that. They do a lot of really good work, and it makes a difference that we support them as a group. It says that we as a group support you. So, and especially in a time of rising anti-Muslim hate and violence right now. That's my second thing. And my third is structural change, and that's about examining power structures. And this is the hard part. It's getting the weed out by the root, right? It's easy to get the top of the weed, but getting the actual root out is harder, and it's more work. 2 years ago, we were on one of only 24 churches in the country that got UU, the Good Trouble Congregation status. We worked really hard. We did a lot. A lot of people in this room and people who aren't here today did a lot of work to make that happen. I actually talked to someone from another local congregation, and I said, "Are you going to do that this year?" And they said, "No, it's too hard. We're not even trying." I'm asking you to do that again with me this year. You may have heard it's another election year. So that will be kicking off. We'll be asking you to write letters and door knock and do those things. I hope you will join me in doing that. The best thing about working for justice is that it's a community garden. The crops are for everyone, and everyone shares in the frustration and the agony and the sore back, but everyone also shares in the joy and the love and that feeling of community that my daughter spoke of at that march. The only way to fail at working for justice is not to act. So please join me, and please invite me to join you when you find a way to do the work of building the beloved community that we all care for. Thank you. Now to the offering. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You're now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. You may also give online via the QR code on the back of the order of service. Thank you. I cannot tell you how much fun I had putting that together. Please rise as you're willing and able for our hymn from the Gray Hymnal, number 170, We Are Gentle, Angry People.
verse. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Okay, and our closing reading is from Reverend Rebecca Savage, Justice is Our Prayer. We've come to the end of our service, but not our calling in the world. May we close our time together with the humble reminder that justice and equity are our spiritual practices to embrace. Each day, every day, we are blessed to be the embodiment of what is possible when justice and equity ground us in all that we do. May we go forth with the light and warmth of the chalice in our hearts until we are together again.